World tendency is very important when planning any kind of Demon Souls run, because whether you like it or not, you can't avoid the consequences of your actions. I explained a lot about it in my previous video on pure black world tendency, so I'll try to keep it short this time and give a basic summary. Pure white makes things easier, pure black makes things harder. If you die in body form too much, your world tendency moves towards pure black. That's right, if you're already having trouble, the game spits in your face by buffing up the enemies, and adding even more of them. But that was last time. We already paid our dues, so now we're focusing on the other part, pure white tendency. In this run, we'll only be using items that are exclusive to pure white tendency, which includes any drops from pure white exclusive encounters, such as Executioner Miralda, as well as anything that is only obtainable in a pure white world. For example, all of the items in the cells unlocked with the cell key found in 3-2. Just like the pure black version of this challenge, I'm allowed to use certain base game items as long as they were dropped by a pure white exclusive enemy. For example, in 5-1, there's a ladder that only appears in pure white tendency. This unlocks an area with enemies that you wouldn't be able to encounter otherwise, so if one of them drops something, say a piece of crescent moon grass, I'm allowed to pick it up. There will be a couple exceptions, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. As for achieving pure white world tendency, you simply beat bosses and mini-bosses throughout the levels without dying in body form. While enemies will be weaker in pure white, they also drop less souls. This is the trade-off for their decreased difficulty. Another thing pure white does is increase your damage by 20% while in soul form, just in case you still needed the extra help. On top of world tendency, we also have character tendency to worry about. When playing offline, it's very hard to move character tendency towards white, since the only way to do this is by defeating Black Phantom invaders. The only way to achieve pure white character tendency offline is by, ironically, defeating the special invaders that only show up in pure black world tendency. Besides giving an additional 20% boost to damage in soul form, the only reason I want pure white character tendency in this run is to use the Demonbrandt. That should be everything I need to cover, so let's get into the challenge, shall we? The enemies may be weak, but so am I. Especially this early on because, well, I can't even get any real weapons until after the Phalanx. Unlike her pure black equivalent who drops an axe, Miralda will only drop her armor in pure white. The good news is, we're not completely helpless, as we can pick up the crescent grass dropped by the Black Phantom Draglings beyond the unlocked door. I wasn't going to go here until I had a weapon because I wanted to actually catch the lizard this time, but after a little pondering, I realized that basic upgrade materials are worthless in this run since most of the weapons I'll be getting are unique ones. Thankfully, there's still plenty of loot to be picked up. We've got a pile of soul items here and another pile by the other side of the hill. Oh my god, the damage. I'm using up all my grass before I've even started the main level. I know you're around the corner, Miralda. You can't fool me this time. Oh, what? She changes sides depending on world tendency? That's a cool detail. Pointless, sure, but still cool. Regardless of what side she's on, the principle remains the same. We stand in the same spot to lure her off the edge before quitting out to get her drops. Not only do we get her armor, we also get the Master's Ring. This ring increases sweet spot damage, and since that only applies to specific weapons, I'm not going to be using it in this playthrough, but I appreciate the sentiment. Everything else we get from down here is the exact same as in pure black. I would use the shield as a melee weapon for the time being, but I can't even level my strength to be able to use it unless I beat the first boss. So instead, I'm going to be running for my life until I make it to the first shortcut. Don't worry, Ostrava, I'll help you. Look, I tried my best, okay? I don't get it. You're fine with taking out a blue-eyed knight on your own, but you couldn't help a fistfighter out against a few dreglings? You know, Ostrava, I was wondering the same thing. Since I've arrived at my next point of interest, now's a good time to talk about one of those exceptions I mentioned in the intro. Technically, all of the items in this dragon roost can be picked up in any world tendency. However, it is very difficult to get all of them when both dragons are here, and basically impossible at the level you first encounter them. But when world tendency hits pure white, both of the dragons will leave, and you're free to pick up the loot without worries. I personally believe the devs expected players to be in pure white tendency, or at the very least have killed the red dragon before coming here. I don't think you're ever expected to suicide run through the fire for the items. And chances are, If you've killed the red dragon, you've also killed Tower Knight, which will be enough to get you into pure white world tendency, and that's likely when most players consider backtracking to pick up these items. So I decided to allow these items under my rule set, since I typically get pure white before picking them up anyway, and based on the messages on the stairs saying the same thing, I figure most players do this as well. The items themselves will be pretty useful. We've got some extra healing items, a shield, and most importantly, the Ring of Great Strength, the precursor to Havel's Ring. Even when I can level my endurance, it's never going to get to the point where the boost from the ring becomes obsolete. This ring is staying on for the whole playthrough. I honestly think this part would be easier if I still had the dragon, but then again, maybe I need to stop weaving through enemies with 20 HP. But once I pulled the lever, I had no choice with the amount of souls I was carrying. It may not seem like that much, but with the reduction of souls in pure white, who knows when I can get my hands on souls like these again? I'm in fight or flight mode right now. Self-preservation is all I care about. I'm so close to the end. All I have to do is make it to the shortcut. All we need to do now is dodge a couple more hoplites. It only has one melee attack. It's so easy to dodge, I just can't panic. After taking a moment for reflection, I felt a sensation of calmness. As I gazed into the sea of draglings ahead, I was inspired by the sublimity of this sight, their uniformity reminding me of the art of hurting, and in turn, the importance of the full moon grass I'd just picked up for emergencies like this one. And after over an hour, I finally made it to the area boss, without losing a single soul in the process. That in itself felt like the real challenge of this level. Now all I have to do is set aside 30 minutes of my day to punch the phalanx and her hoplites to death. I'm worried that this might be turning into a theme in my Demon Souls runs. This time, I'm using a shield one of the Phantom Dreglings dropped for me so I can actually block some attacks for a change. It's so easy to take shields for granted. Only in runs like this do you remember how useful they are. The Slave's shield only blocks 70% of physical damage, but considering how light and easy to use it is, I'd say that's a fair trade. Once the phalanx is down, the worst part of the playthrough is over, since now we're free to explore the rest of the archstones and find a proper weapon. I always allow soul items in runs like this, so let's go ahead and use the boss soul as well. For levels, I'm starting with strength to be able to wield some more weapons. Then I'm going to pour a generous amount into vitality, since I'll spend most of the run in soul form. Now that we have some more strength, we can two-hand the purple flame shield and use the shield bash as a melee attack. Or we could hunch behind it like this and block everything. The 100% physical damage negation will cover most basic enemies. The only thing this shield lacks is magic defense, which isn't a big deal for most areas. Of course, shields aren't meant to be used as weapons, so the shield bash isn't the best attack out there. It takes most of your stamina to use, and is very slow. But on the other hand, if enemies attack you during the animation, you'll block any oncoming damage and continue your attack uninterrupted. Either way, that didn't help me much against the swarm of dogs that took most of my health towards the end of the level. I also didn't bring any healing items because I was staying in body form, hoping to get an invader, and I figured it wouldn't matter much if I got invaded with nothing but a shield. Oh well, we weren't beating Tower Knight with that amount of HP anyway. I may not be able to get invaded, but there's more of an incentive in pure white to stay in soul form for the 20% damage boost. Even with that, the purple flame shield isn't capable of killing the archers in one hit, and the knockback is detrimental in this case. That backstep is so scary. How can such a simple movement be the best thing in his arsenal? It's about time. I was starting to think I'd have to chip him down forever. Since he's finally vulnerable, I can take advantage of the Great Shield's best attack, which is its rolling attack. It comes out a lot faster than expected when compared to the other attacks. I'm not sure if this was intentional or an oversight. Regardless of its speed, it still takes a whole stamina bar to use, so it probably didn't even result in much more DPS than the standard shield bash. I would complain about the janky hitbox, but I also literally ran in a perfectly straight line for him. I can't blame the game for that one. My next attempt was going a little better. This time I got lucky with the shield and somehow managed to hit his torso for a little extra damage. This can also be achieved if you use the uneven elevation to your advantage on the stairs, but fighting him here seems dangerous, so I won't push my luck too much. I got a little too close to death again, but managed to finish him off by spamming a couple more shield bashes. Threat neutralized. I have a plan. A very specific plan. So first things first, let's get Dex to 13. To continue with my plan, we'll need to go to the Shrine of Storms. I don't know, man. Last time you said that, I got shanked. Satsuki's already onto my plan. I did indeed come here in search of the magic sword Makoto, but I sure as hell ain't giving it to him. Finders keepers. Before I can actually get my hands on it, I'll have to clear the level with a shield again. Believe it or not, this is a pretty optimal way to play this level. The skeleton's curved swords will bounce off the shield and leave them wide open for a shield bash. If you use the heavy version, you'll be able to take them out in one hit. This was probably the easiest time I ever had on this level, and the adjudicator won't be any different. Fighting it with a shield isn't going to complicate things too much. It only means that the fight will take longer than usual since it takes more hits to knock the boss down. And with the extra stamina consumption of shield bashes, it also takes 4 cycles to kill it.
Then I'll sell every last trinket off your corpse.
Patches, I'd really hate to burst your bubble, but there's a reason I'm fighting with a shield. Well, not anymore. Thanks to Patches, I finally have a real weapon. He even gave us a place to test it out. How considerate of him. Wait, I forgot to use my souls! Every time I hang on to my souls, something goes wrong. Every time. On the bright side, I got a lot back from taking out the Phantom, as well as killing the Reaper after each failure. But the brain likes to focus on negativity, so I'm just lamenting the souls I would have had if I still had the other amount on top of this. Either way, there's no choice but to move on and see what the next area holds. With the Makoto, we finally have a proper weapon. And the Makoto isn't just any weapon, it's actually a good weapon. It can one-shot pretty much any enemy in the prison, and that's before it even gets a chance to demonstrate its fast bleed buildup. Naturally, nothing that good comes without a price. This weapon has a health drain gimmick, so if you're low on health, it's easy to accidentally die just by having it in your hand. I may have been too dazzled with it in the first place. I found out the hard way that it doesn't one-shot the wardens when not two-handed. Other than that small detail, it mostly lives up to the legends, and I also made a fun minigame for myself out of the health drain mechanic. Originally, I had planned to restock my crescent grass, but instead of doing that, I decided to clear the level without them and see if I could beat everything, including the boss, before dying to the sword. As long as you remember to put the sword away when not in combat, the health drain won't be too much of an issue. It's basically a self-imposed poison buildup. But the moment you get hit, you're in a losing battle against the clock. You can see that even towards the end of the level, it's barely made a dent in my health. The only thing I have left to do now is find the other side of that contraption. Well, I don't think I'll find it down there. I think I need to turn up the brightness a little. I can barely see where I'm going. But I can probably pick up my souls beforehand, just so I don't forget. Now I have the shortcut unlocked, but I got hit on the way over here, so I'm a little worried about this fight in particular, since its whole gimmick is a waiting game. That might not be ideal for my weapon, but I've made it this far, so let's just give this fight our all. Hopefully we can get some decent damage to start with. I'm pretty sure she's immune to bleed, so I'm banking on the physical damage being really good. Good god, that damage! That was almost enough to one-cycle her! Now the question is, will I get lucky with her next spawn point? Alright, well, it won't hurt to test the closest one first. No way this is her, no way, are you serious? What's with the godlike RNG I've been having in this fight? Let's not jinx it and just move on to the next one. I'll stop strength at 25 for the time being, then put the rest into endurance to prepare for wielding those heavy weapons we'll be getting soon. After breaking the first chain, there should be a bridge we can cross to pick up the Pure White exclusive key that unlocks Riddell's cell. We'll free him soon, but first, we've got some other thing that needs to be released back into the wild. Go now. Be free. Once again, I die to some regular enemy before I even get a chance to be invaded. Yes, I could have just replenished my stock of grass, but I'll be honest with you, I got addicted to the rush I got from playing these dangerous games with the Makoto. I had a sort of clutch moment at the very end of the level, just as I was approaching the second elevator. It was taking way too long to get here, so the gargoyles I had ran past earlier all caught up to me at once in this tiny corridor. After I miraculously made it out of that altercation, I had to carefully navigate through all the ragdolls I'd just created to get to the elevator. I didn't stop to get any grass just yet. I figured I'd try my hand at this without them to see how damage is looking. Well, after taking a hit or two, it's not worth sticking around since it's physically impossible with the time frame of the health loss. This boss is too inconsistent for the Makoto minigame. Sometimes they fly around for only a couple seconds, other times they stand in the air doing nothing for a couple of minutes. Luckily, the Makoto's damage still holds up even at this point in the game. They won't bleed out, but uninterrupted, the physical damage alone should kill each one in around a minute. My other stats are looking alright, so my next goal is to get Faith to 24 to meet the requirements of another weapon I should be getting soon. There's always at least a handful of people online, and if there's one place to invade, it's in the old monk fight. I got excited for a second when it wouldn't let me skip the cutscene, but apparently that always happens online to give it time to search for a player, because to my disappointment, when it was over, no silly name flashed across the screen to invade my world. There was nothing but a soulless computer waiting for me atop the tower. There's not anything particularly interesting to talk about with this fight, but it does remind me of the other online old monk fight where I R1'd the poor guy to death. And remember how I joked about how over-leveled I felt in comparison? The funny thing about that is, I checked the Archstone server website, and apparently they did remove level restrictions from multiplayer. So not only are there no weapon level restrictions, just like in the original, on top of that, I very well could have been fighting someone who was level 30 on my level 80 character. But with the amount of people online typically being no higher than 20, it's probably better that way. Besides, I know one of these days will be my day of reckoning for last time. It's only a matter of time before I get invaded by someone so level 1 twink in Boletaria. Until then, I'll be appreciating the free levels from the computer player. Now that the third Archstone is complete, we can backtrack and free Riddell for a Dole Rat's ring, aka the Blue Tearstone ring. Other than that, we can now access the previously locked section of the prison for some assorted loot. The Venerable Sage's set is the only male-exclusive pure white armor set, hence my choice of playing as a female character this time. Everything other than the Brushwood set is female-exclusive, including this sick witch hat. Combine that with the Rogue set, and you have some top-tier fashion. It's witching hour, baby. There's nothing else of note in these cells, just a couple of soul items, some upgrade materials I can't use, and an ephemeral eye here and there. At least we can trade the upgrade materials with the crow, so ultimately we can still get good use out of them. I'll go ahead and eat a few of those soul items, so I can work on more vitality and endurance. You can't go wrong with those. The survivability stats are typically my priority when preparing to go to the Valley of Defilement. However, I noticed that my dexterity was still lagging behind the 18 points I needed to wield the Easterel I came here for. The walk to the weapon itself shouldn't be long, especially since I have a competent weapon for once, and the poison resistance ring, which I actually forgot to equip before coming here. Before I make the journey, I decided to go ahead and use all the soul items I had left to see how many levels I could get from that. It was a couple hundred short of a single level, so maybe we can start practicing our parries in the meantime as we get those. We're not quite there yet, but since we at least meet the faith requirement, I imagine our damage won't suffer much. Let's just get the weapon first, then we'll worry about dex. Playing online at least reassures me that I'm not alone. After kicking down the bridge, the final threat standing between me and my prize is this pack of plague rats. Have you ever wondered why Dark Souls rats are always giant mutants and not normal-sized? The answer is in front of us. I can imagine the studio was swamped with complaints about these little guys, after so many weapons require the player to stare down at the floor to even hit them. Yeah, I'd prefer the giant rats any day. They're just more putrid flesh for me to burn. But anyways, once they've all been exterminated, the ladder to our special weapon will be directly past this room to the left. You don't even have to worry about the big guy. After you start climbing the ladder, he just gives up and stares at it. There's a few enemies and some soul items up here, and these enemies are some of the select few that I can actually accept drops from. This place would be a good source of healing grass if it weren't such a pain to get to. In the deepest part of the area, we'll see the Easterel, guarded by a couple giant depraved ones. As long as you walk slowly and approach one at a time, you'll successfully communicate your intentions for honorable 1v1s, which they are happy to oblige. After proving yourself in battle, you may pull the Easterel from her terrestrial scabbard. As I suspected, being a little short on the dex requirement isn't going to make a huge impact on the damage, since this weapon has a very high faith scaling. And that's really all that matters, since only the physical part of the damage is going to scale with dex. The majority of the damage is magic damage, which only scales off of faith. Nonetheless, if I'm going to use this for regular enemies in the world, I still need to upgrade dex anyway, so it doesn't bounce off of everything. Before I resume my travels, I want to take care of Ostrava while he's still in the Nexus, because I would like to get the Mausoleum key early, so I can have a chance to use the Demonbrandt. I thought I would have to push him off with a shield myself, but apparently the intimidation alone was enough. He rolled off of his own volition, and you can't prove otherwise. It would seem trading is not an option here. This is a good place to use a keep-out weapon like the Easterel and just poke from a safe distance. Here it is. The fabled sword of such strength that can only be harnessed by one with a soul as pure as mine. I won't use it in my own world until I reach pure white character tendency for the full damage boost, because that's the version of the weapon that is pure white exclusive. Though, as you can see, I did mess around with it against some helpless dreglings. Until I reach pure white character tendency, this will be my co-op weapon, assuming I can get summoned. That's because co-op is considered the pure white thing to do, since you're helping the host out of the kindness of your heart, not because you have ulterior motives or anything. Surprisingly, I got summoned relatively quickly by Thundergrass here, and we had some fun strolling through Stonefang Tunnel. Only when I'm a phantom to a much lower level host do I realize how broken this sword is. I quickly changed my mind about this weapon because I wanted the host to actually have a chance to fight some enemies and play the game. So I switched to what I thought was a weaker weapon and ended up doing even more damage. Without a level matchmaking system, I suppose there's not much that can be done. And while it's balanced out by the fact that invaders can also be any level, I still feel scummy. I've never been an over-leveled phantom before. Despite that, I still managed to let my host down and get them killed. They died because of me, because I was being a terrible summon trying to make it across the bridge to get the fat official. And then what did I do? Did I drop everything to get back to the host in accordance with my phantom duties? Nope. I took my time killing random enemies that weren't even aggroed, while my host was stuck on the bridge all alone fighting the fat official. Needless to say, they didn't summon me again when I put my sign back out. At this point, I probably should just go back to my own world and try to kill my own invaders to shift character tendency. It would be a nice change of pace in a pure white world since the enemies become so much easier. I tried to get invaded by going through the levels slowly. I was practically begging to get invaded at this point. Before entering the boss fight, I waited inside a tunnel for a bit in case any last-minute invaders wanted to take me up on my offer, but nobody came. Armor Spider is weak to both thrust and magic damage, so it's going to get completely demolished by the Easterel. The poor little spider didn't even get a chance to do its signature move. Oh yeah, and Pure White Scurver's here. He kinda just exists since he doesn't give me anything super useful. I still didn't turn up my brightness. This time, I happen to have a perfect build to deal with Flame Lurker. The shield poke strategy is a low-risk, high-reward melee option if you can manage stamina efficiently. While I do have the Brushwood shield that blocks 100% of fire damage, I still need like one more point in strength to use it, and it's super heavy. Plus, I like wearing clothes, so I'm fine with the 90% reduction from the purple flame shield. I also figured that this fight was worth the farm for a thick stack of crescent grass. I still have a few pieces of emergency full moon grass left, but I'm sure those will get eaten very quickly. This is going to be the first time in a while that I fight this guy without using the cheese. I'm still hiding behind a shield the whole time, so it's not a huge step forward, but still, I never use shields, so it was something different for me. It's funny how if you don't cheese him, he'll just cheese himself by running into a wall and getting into an attack loop, but that's why we love this guy, right? I think this is the first time where I actually have no use for the Red Hot Demon Soul. I did have one colorless Demon Soul, but I'm pretty sure I ate it. I'll be honest, I didn't think that could reach me here. I was gonna wait, but I think I should just get the Dragon Bone Smasher now to clear the debris faster. What? What do you mean, cannot carry? My character was literally holding it in her hand. Well, something has to go, so it might as well be this shield that I forgot to put in storage. This sword is one of my favorites. It has great damage, of course, but it also gives you extra fire resistance just by holding it, and it can pancake virtually any non-boss enemy. Of course, it also works well for its intended use of dragon bone smashing. Well, there's the 18 dex we needed. Now we can start focusing on other stats again. I will try one more level in body form. If I don't get invaded here, it'll be time to move on to plan B. I'm actually glad I chose this level to be in body form. It's the only reason I survived that infamous final room with the Reaper. I can still hear his laughter from all the way down here. Body form puts you in a disadvantage against the old hero. Because of his blindness, he relies completely on the sound of your footsteps to find your location. Without it, he'll just attack random corners of the room. Sure, it's good to be able to take some extra hits, but in soul form, I likely wouldn't have taken those hits in the first place. I'm also not getting that 20% damage boost, but that hardly matters with a weapon like the Dragon Bone Smasher. After getting a few more levels, we can get some useful items by trading some upgrade materials with the crow. Aside from that, I'm going to pick up the white bow you can find past an illusory wall. Why am I doing this? You'll see. It looks like we're back to leveling dex since this weapon takes 24 points to use. We can get that last point by clearing out the rest of World 5. The bosses here shouldn't give us too much trouble. Even the swamp itself will be no match for us. The Easterel gives a generous boost to poison resistance when wielding it. After combining this with the resistance from the ring, our character's resistance is over 900. This means enemies can't poison us in one hit, and we can actually go through the swamp without getting poisoned, as long as we take quick breaks on the islands to let the meter go down. So what's the deal here? Can you just not hit the mosquitoes with a spear, or what? Are you seeing this? How in the world does that not count as a hit? And they even got bigger because they grabbed me and sucked my blood, but apparently it doesn't actually make the hurt box bigger. That figures. Selin, I put myself through a lot to collect this data, so please just bear with me. I'm trying to see whether or not she can get poisoned by the swamp in body form. The wiki isn't clear about this, and besides, I've been given reasons to distrust them after what happened with Penetrator. She had been standing there for quite some time without getting poisoned, so it seems she is still immune to the swamp, even in body form. Since I can't kill her with environmental damage to avoid the character tendency penalty, I'm going to leave her alone. The only thing you get is her armor anyway, and while I don't dislike the dull gold set, I prefer the one I have on, so I feel like it would be pointless to kill her for it. So we're gonna ignore her and move on with the level, only to quickly fold under the pressure of being overwhelmed by another pack of mosquitoes. I switched to the Dragon Bone Smasher for the remainder of the level, otherwise the boss would be unreachable due to the mosquitoes blocking my way on the shortcut bridge. Dirty Colossus isn't going to be a threat at all, and I honestly don't really know what to do with all these souls at this point. For Garl Vinland, the idea is to keep pancaking him with the Ultra Greatsword until he dies. As far as I know, the parry rule for two-handed large weapons still applies in this game, so he won't be able to parry it, which nullifies his intimidation with the shield. But then again, it could be that the parry exception hadn't been implemented yet, and he can just parry everything. Luckily, he doesn't have too much health, so it won't take long to whittle him down again. He even was kind enough to show me his butt for the final backstab. Okay, I get it. It's rude to play with your food. When Estrella has been defeated, in a pure white world, Black Phantom Garl Vinland will spawn in the exact same place you fight the boss version. Like all the other Black Phantoms, the only difference is that he's a jacked up version of his former self with 1,000,000 HP. Well, that's certainly some scenery. I'm so thankful for that railing. You know what they say, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em. Behind his own scary backstabs and parries, Garl Vinland desperately tries to deny the truth that he himself is no more than a parry dummy. The timing of the parry is very easy, but if you miss one, he's gonna one-shot you, so of course there is still a little pressure, especially if you're prone to making mistakes already, but don't allow yourself to be overcome with fear. That's what he wants, and we're not gonna let him get his way. I already used all the new moon grass I had on this, so I had nothing to lose by pulling out the Makoto to finish the job. Out of all my weapons, this one is most suitable for critical damage, and at this rate, he'll be dead long before the health loss becomes an issue. The only difficulty I had with this was the camera. You can stall that attack all you want. I've got more time than you think. After everything we've been through, we can collect our final prize of the valley, the Demonbrandt. He also drops a key item you can give to Selin to finish her quest, but since all I'll get is a ring I can't use, I'm not gonna bother going through the swamp again. So that means it's time to get character tendency to pure white with the backup plan. To do that, we have to make our world pure black to defeat the named black phantoms that spawn in every archstone. I'm well acquainted with them from my first playthrough, and I know that they shouldn't be underestimated no matter how strong you think you are. Initially, I was going to use the side quest to test out the Demonbrandt, but as much as I hate to say it, it didn't feel like that much of an upgrade to the Dragonbone Smasher, and I didn't like its moveset as much either. It's also ridiculously heavy and weighs 36 units. For comparison, even the Dragonbone Smasher weighs only 20. Finally, I can have my revenge against my arch nemesis. What's wrong? Can't heal yourself back to full when you're being flattened by my giant sword. Hey look, I found the sword you were talking about. Wanna see it? The thing that sucks about this is that I have to kill him legit, or I won't get an increase to character tendency, and you know how much I hate being honorable. That's why I'm gonna cheese Selin for a second time, adding insult to injury by using her brother's signature weapon to do it. Lord Riddell is the last Black Phantom before we reach pure white character tendency. You can see that we can now wield the true version of the Demonbrandt, and once again, we can get another 20% boost to our damage in soul form. Now it's time for that other exception to the rules I was alluding to. As you might have guessed, owing to the linear nature of the Storm King fight, where there is only one melee option, I had to bend the rules again to make this possible. However, I decided to do so in a silly way, by using the white bow with only white arrows. I mean, we're using pure white items only, and as far as I'm concerned, both of these items match that description. This is actually the only fight where you have to bend the rules, because unfortunately, pure white does not have any ranged options. No bows, no spells, not even an enemy to drop us some throwing knives. There's always a chance that I overlooked something, but after scanning the wiki page multiple times, there didn't seem to be any pure white exclusive enemies that dropped any ranged consumables, so I had to get creative for this one. I went out of my way to collect all 128 white arrows that are available in a single playthrough, but obviously that was overkill. After this fight, I paid the rule break tax and got rid of all the souls from that fight. Not that I really needed them at this point anyway. So back to Boletaria we go for the final push against the demons. I was much more confident here than usual with the pure white damage buff. You can probably tell that much from how brazenly I confronted even the dangerous enemies like the knights. The enemies may be weaker, but they do have strength in numbers and can keep overly greedy players like myself in check. But if that happens, there's always the Dragonbone Smasher. Pure black tendency jump scare? Haven't we all been there? We can one-shot the official who guards the shortcut. We can one-shot the official who guards the shortcut, so we can pull the lever and challenge the area boss. No matter how confident I get, I can't overcome my instinctual fear of the bridge. Ironically, I give myself more problems by trying to outrun the knights and usually end up panic rolling into their spears. The Penetrator will be a nice little break from the enemies. Demon Souls is the only game where you can say that about the bosses. I swapped to the Demonbrandt for him since I haven't used it against any bosses yet. I only had a single piece of grass left for this, but I got past the bridge already, so there's no turning back now. And if you want to know how this fight went, well, if he's the Penetrator, then call me the Smasher. This ended up being a no-hit solely for the fact that this weapon hardly gives him time to retaliate. He spent most of the fight in hit stun and died after 5 smashes. And honestly, it should only get easier from here since I'll be switching to the Demonbrandt for the final level. Look at how clean those slashes are, like cutting butter. Putting its strength aside, I just really love the feel of this weapon, and I love the luster of the blade as well. Just to be safe, I'm temporarily swapping to the Dragonbone Smasher for some extra fire resistance before I cross the Dragon Bridge. Of course, the one time I come prepared, I don't get caught in the fire at all. I guess that's Demon Souls for you. Obviously, Astrava's Phantom stands no chance. At worst, he's a minor inconvenience standing in the way of another minor inconvenience. It took me way too long to notice that the king has slaves to operate the lift. There's so many cool details about the worlds in these games. At last, I have arrived to challenge a Lunt with the very sword he discarded. After all, what use does a demon have for that which is righteous? For once, I feel like the two of us are evenly matched. Usually, this is a fight where I struggle to do yellow damage, but this weapon takes out huge chunks of his health with each hit, owing to its damage boost against demon-type enemies. There couldn't have been a more lore-friendly weapon to choose against him. Even his own son implores the player to retrieve it from the mausoleum. Of course, it wouldn't be a proper fight if I didn't almost sabotage myself by trying to go for a stylish finish. Okay, I have to admit, that dodge was clean. The old man still got it. Look at him. He's the epitome of regal grace. I accidentally synced this fight perfectly with his dialogue, almost as if slaying the one who started this pandemonium with the demon-rending blade was meant to be. With that, we have completed both sides of the Demon Souls World Tendency Challenge. I enjoyed exploring the worlds of both Pure Black and Pure White, and finding the unique quests and rewards they have to offer. In my opinion, I think the Pure Black version was more difficult overall, which I would have expected anyway. The Pure White run, while more difficult in the first part of the game, becomes much easier once you unlock all the archstones, since the unique weapons are much easier to obtain. But even more importantly, there's more fashion, at least if you choose a female character. As always, thanks for sticking around until the very end, I do appreciate it, and I hope that you enjoyed the run because there will be many more in the future.